What's up, chat? Welcome back to the stream. It is Tuesday. We are becoming just a little bit tactical. How's it going, everybody? We're talking about Necrons today. Necrons are, unsurprisingly, the highest performers in the metagame right now. So defeating them, if you want to be competitive Warhammer 40k, is absolutely crucial. So what I have done is I have gone through, as we've done in the past, I've gone through dozens and dozens of results from different Necron games to determine what is conclusively defeating them. And what's interesting is that we could kind of break this discussion into two separate categories. The first one being C'tan Shard Necrons, and the second one being non-C'tan Shard Necrons. Well, now, unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to go through literally every single result and vet them for C'tan Shard versus non-C'tan Shard, but we did have some interesting results that were very bifurcated, so it's easier to take a peek. And I have a little bit of insight into each variant direction of Necrons sans C'tan Shards or Necrons with C'tan Shards. So yeah, welcome in, everybody. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me. Let's hop in. Well, I guess a little bit of a PSA. My registration for my team event is closing in 2 days. Let me grab the link to it real quick. We'll just pull that right up. Here we go. Registration is closing in 2 days. We currently have 23 teams registered. So if you are interested, there is obviously all the information is in my Discord server in the spring-loaded team tournament page, or channel, I should say. However, if you wish to participate, because we have a currently odd number of teams, I have just created a team from the community because there's a bunch of people who want to play in the team format, but don't necessarily have players to play with. They don't necessarily have people they are prepared to play with. So, if you want to, what I can do is create an additional team. If we don't get any more teams, what I don't want to do is create a buy. But there is basically, currently, at the time of streaming, there is an open slot. So, if you want to play, I'm looking for a captain who will captain a team, and then I will pull people who are looking for teams from the LFT, looking for team tag, and I will assign them into a team if you want to play. You're ineligible for door prizes if you do register that way, because obviously you haven't paid your entry fee. It's a free registration if you want to do that. But I'm looking for one more team in order to make a even number of teams. But at the very least, we have that would give us 24 teams of 8. So that would give us, what is that? 212 players, which is pretty cool. I think that's pretty nice. Is that right? No, 192 players. 192 players. Not 212. 192. Which would be sweet. So I think that would be cool. Yeah. Let's jump in and let's talk about some Necrons. That's the only other thing I had to talk about today. So, here's what I have done. As I mentioned before, if I can find where I put my notes. Oh my God. As I mentioned before, I have broken this down into a discussion of Necrons avec C'tan Shards and Necrons without C'tan Shards. Now, the biggest result that we have for this like sort of divergence is actually the Manchester Super Major. So I looked through typically large events over the last 3 weeks or so, mostly looking into the current sort of iteration, the current update patch version of 40k. And an interesting thing happened at the Manchester Super Major. It must just be a UKTC meta thing. I don't know. But most of the Necron players here who made top X1 or whatever were doing so without the use of C'tan Shards. Actually, the vast majority of them did not play C'tan Shards that did well at UKTC. Does this, or at Manchester Super Major, does this mean that C'tan Shards are bad and you shouldn't play them? I have no idea. I genuinely don't know. But it does mean that we get to take a peek at what beated them, because they all lost. And that was generally this guy right here. It was Innes Wilson killed 2 Necron players at least in the top, I think in his final 3 rounds, on his way to actually winning the event, he was playing Deathwatch. And I think this brings us to our first takeaway, which is that the difference between C'tan Shard Necrons and non-C'tan Shard Necrons is very distinct. C'tan Shards are individual, high damage output, high resilience models that tend to have kind of a low OC characteristic. The same is not necessarily true of non-C'tan Shard Necron builds. These non-C'tan Shard Necron builds tend to play a much heavier in the sort of MSU style. So they will either take multiple of these Scorpek or Ophidian Destroyer units. In this case, we're actually just running Scorpek lords to do mortal wounds, I guess. But they have a lot more individual activations. They also have a lot more of a focus on ranged output, and they typically will have a lot more focus on high model count. This particular build is focused a little bit more on the big stuff, so we have Silent King and Doomsday Arcs and things like that. However, the interesting thing about Necrons is that their non-C'tan Shard big models tends to have a not dissimilar defensive profile to their smaller units. So if you compare, for example, a Doomsday Arc with like a Wraith unit, a Doomsday Arc is a couple higher toughness, but they're both invulnerable save protected, 3+ armor save models. The Wraiths have more wounds and feel no pain, but the Doomsday Arcs are higher toughness. But a lot of the weapons that do well into either one, which is like high volume, mid to low AP weapons, are good in both categories. Whereas once you get to that toughness 11+, or typically toughness 10+, like C'tan Shards that also have damage reduction, so high volume is not necessarily quite as good. Those tend to fall off quite a bit. So this kind of, if we can pull our Deathwatch list back up, into these non-C'tan Shard lists, these kind of high volume attacks are very good, right? We have things like indirect fire that can deal with their utility. We have things, it can even sometimes kill those independent characters if they have them. It can threaten units like Necrosaur Amintar if he doesn't have a destroyer next to him. It can kill units like Ophidians before they up down. You can kill their flayed ones. That's a big one too. And then once you get up close and personal, you have massive output from things like Fortis kill teams and the direct fire shooting from Dominator kill teams or the direct fire shooting from Fortis kill teams that can put serious damage onto units like Arcs or like Wraith squads once they are committed to the center. So this kind of high volume profile, very good into these C'tan Shardless Necron builds. The difference is that the other thing that was able to beat them here was, let me pull up the list. We also saw Necrons lose to, in the final round here, Adeptus Custodes, which, if we sort of utilize that same line of thinking, if we're not fighting into the -1 damage C'tan Shards, a unit like Adeptus Custodes, very good into a lot of these shardless defensive profiles, right? It's a lot of like T6, 4+ save, maybe T9, but less wounds. There's a lot of like, maybe even T6, 3+ armor, just on a Scorpek Destroyer or something like that. An army like this, that is mass multi-damage, strength 7, with critical effects, is going to absolutely open that can, right? You're just going to take massive damage once you engage with them. This one was running the triple Land Raider build for Custodes, which is pretty standard. So you do have a little bit of long range tank shooting that you can sort of mess with their tanks at the long range with. It's a little less consistent with the las cannons into things like Doomsday Arcs because they do have that invuln save. So it's like, who knows if you're doing damage? I don't know. It's a 50-50. But once you get stuck in, these units will absolutely ruin most Necron frontliners, right? They just have so much output that they're gonna beat the crap out of them. So, what we see is that these lists that are focusing on non-C'tan Shard builds do tend to lose to stuff like this. Lots of critical effects, lots of attacks, high value attacks that are in high volume, even if they're lower damage. Very good against the stuff that is not bringing C'tan Shards. Now, obviously, most people are bringing C'tan Shards. I would say about 60% of high-performing Necron lists, based on what I have been looking at, are bringing 2+ shards with them. So, when we are discussing beating C'tan Shards, we have to reevaluate what we're doing. And there's a couple interesting takeaways. I saw many C'tan Shards lose to some weird factions. And I think a big part of the game right now is the fact that the stuff that is consistent against C'tan Shards is going to be, here's even, I just randomly clicked on a different list. Here's just to sort of reinforce my point here. This is a Cursed Legion list. No C'tan Shard list, Cursed Legion. It's got some Doomsday Arcs. It's got a bunch of Destroyers in it. It's got the Lichguard Warscythe brick in Cursed Legion, so it gets extra. You use Destroyer Ankh to give it extra attacks, Destroyer keywords, so you can get +2 strength pretty easily, and then you can use all the stratagems on it, so they can advance and charge. They move really fast. They auto 6 advantage, +3 inches of movement, charge. It's a lot. It lost in the final round against Adeptus Custodes. Exactly the same thing that we were just talking about. Adeptus Custodes look at these Necron no damage reduction defensive profiles and are like, give me that. I want that. I want to hit that with my big spear. And then they absolutely ruined them. That game was not close. That was a 95-38. Holy shit. However, if we look down here, we can see some interesting stuff happen. We have a C'tan Shardy Necron build. Is this a picture? Bro, what is this? It's fucking like 2018. We're dropping pictures into our BCP. Who remembers the time where people used to, they would print their list out? Because you used to have printed lists. That was the whole thing. Like every event was like, you have to print your list. So you would print out your list and then you would take a picture of it and then you would submit that on BCP. Or the worst one I saw was you would take a selfie of you holding the list and then you would submit that. What the fuck is wrong with these people? This is funny. This is just a screenshot, but I don't know why you would do that. You could just copy and paste it. It's okay. It doesn't really matter. In any case, there's a Star Shatter Arsenal. Normal stuff. It's Silent King, but it's also bringing 2 C'tan Shards, Deceiver, and Nightbringer. However, it has lost to an interesting build, that being Orcs, an Orc Warhorde. So this is not the only time this has happened, by the way. There have been a lot of results for X and 1 or similar performing Necron players losing to Orc Warhordes. And I think the fact that factions like Orcs, and another really good instance is World Eaters, the fact that these lists are pretty good against C'tan Shards, but not amazing into the rest of the metagame, is a big indicator or a big reason for the fact that Necrons are very high performant right now, because they have a huge number of really, really powerful effects in this matchup, right? So C'tan Shards, they give you -1 damage. They have low armor or mid armor, right? It's okay armor. It's 3+, whatever. And then kind of a middling invulnerable save. It's a 4+ invulnerable save. The way you beat that is you hit it with a bunch of fucking guys. You just beat on them. You want critical effects. You want mass volume, 1 damage attacks. AP 1 damage, like lethal hits. That's what you want. Guess what Warhorde does? Exactly all of those things. So as long as you can save the WOG for a turn where you can get either Gaskell's unit or a unit that is being affected by Makari's banner into combat with a C'tan Shard, you're going to kick the shit out of it. And fortunately for these builds, C'tan Shards are the front line, right? For these styles of Necron armies. C'tan Shards are the thing in the middle. You're not going to do it with Doomsday Arcs. You're not going to do it with the Silent King. I guess you could do it with the Silent King. He's a little bit resilient, but he's basically the same deal. He just doesn't, I guess he does have the -1 damage. I don't know. He's supposed to be another C'tan Shard, I guess. So the same affects him too. So in any case, what we're going to be doing is trying to dump that like mass high, critical hit value into this front line of models. The other thing that these builds do is once you start to put 700 points of your army, or 600 points in this case of your army, into C'tan Shards, you are putting a third of your list into exactly 8 objective control characteristic. So there's a couple things going on here. If we look at our Warhorde, we do have the profiles to kill these things. Oh, there it is. We get sustained hits 1, and we can use Unbridled Carnage for a 5+ critical hit. Once we are triggering lethal hits from Makari's banner on the Wog turn, all these boys are starting to hit with +1 attack, 5+ lethal sustain, and the output from that whole mob, probably, and even more so if it's Gaskell, right? Gaskell just kicks the shit out of one of these C'tan Shards, is that you're probably killing one of these big spooky units with one of your bricks of idiot boys, right? The other thing is that you also just have mass OC everywhere. Orcs, it's just a million objective control characteristic. You have Gretchen everywhere, which are just running around at OC2. Oh, excuse me, chat. 1 sec. I hope I'm not coming down with a cold. It's very, it's very cold and like wet today, and I got a real snuffly nose today, and there's a cold going around my apartment, so I hope I don't have one. I'm gonna cross my fingers, but I got a little cough. So we have high OC from even just the random units, Gretchen and stuff. Plus, we have lots and lots of 5 model units, Storm Boys, Commandos, all this stuff. If you can engage onto an objective being held by a C'tan Shard without letting the C'tan Shard hit you, then you just take it because your 5 OC and C'tan Shards are apocryphally 4 OC. So they or importantly 4 OC. So your little utility units can constantly keep them off balance, even if you're not killing them. And units like this do have a great opportunity to kill them. However, the downside is that orcs are not particularly high performant in other matchups, right? We've seen them a million times play against Ultramarines, for example, and just get their shit housed because they're just like, here I go, here's my army. I'm going to put 40 or 60 boys in your face and then say go. And your opponent goes, cool, I'm going to oath 2 of them. And then they're going to die to like the side guns on Repulsor Executioners. And you're like, aw, I was hoping that those would last a little bit longer. It's happened time and time again. It's not the greatest matchup for orcs, unfortunately, ever. So that's unfortunate. And I think it is beneficial to Necron's win rate that factions like orcs are a little bit underperformant, because orcs can be a very nice metagame silver bullet to these Necron builds. The other one that has come out of the woodwork is World Eaters. We saw a bunch of World Eaters for a lot of similar reasons kicking the shit out of C'tan Shards. Here is an example. So at the Talvisota GT, this is a 100-player major. This is the one that was weird because it ran a shadow round, but it was hard to tell. So the results looked for super weird. But we saw a 4-1 Necron player lose immediately to just random World Eaters. World Eater Berserker Warband. And a lot of it's exactly the same stuff, right? World Eaters, they don't have access to improved critical hits, but they do have lethal sustain available to them. They do have these huge bricks of high OC. And they do have like random anti-character stuff, which is good against C'tan Shard builds. So a lot of the same effects that make orcs beneficial in the matchup, these fast, these hard-hitting, these high OC big bricks of guys. In addition to stacked critical effects, which means that their normal output is not like the biggest deal in the world. Like the fact that it's just like mass 1 damage goes even farther when you have lethal hits in there. Plus, in Berserker Warband, Khorne Berserkers go to strength 6, so they're wounding stuff on 5s instead of 6s, which is huge. Once you get to that strength 6 cutoff against a T11 C'tan Shards or T10 Silent King, that's a big old deal. Because now, you start to you're right on the efficient profile matchup where your high volume stuff with lethal hits, it's also winning on 5s, can start to do some pretty serious damage. You have units like Exalted 8-Bound. I guess we don't have the Slaughterbound in this one, but sometimes you see the Exalted 8-Bound with the Slaughterbound that get bonuses against monsters and vehicles, and the Slaughterbound comes in with a billion attacks at 4 flat damage, which is absolutely crazy. So these guys, it's another instance of a faction that has incredible utility against exactly the defensive profile that C'tan Shards have. You're also good at stealing the objectives away from them with all of these aggressive high OC things. However, not the greatest performance in the metagame as a whole, which means that the fact that they are not doing as well, especially towards the top tables, means that C'tan Shards can dodge them without being absolutely bogged by a bunch of angry Khorne Berserker men running at them with axes. The other thing, too, is you can push that OC, the objective control effects, to an insane level. There have been some results that are just in fairness. This is it. I just want to talk about this list because I think it's cool. But let's see if I can grab the list that it beat real quick here. One sec. There's some like random weird results that can be explained a couple different ways, and it probably comes down to the specifics of the matchup. But a lot of the things we're talking about are in play. First of all, here's a Pantheon of Woe list. This is from Battle for the Couch 2, which is a relatively large sort of GT plus level event a couple weeks ago. And this list is Pantheon of Woe. Eric Glasgow played it. And it's just a bunch of C'tan Shards, right? Double Transcendence, triple character C'tan Shards, Epic Hero C'tan Shards, Immotech the Stormlord for some command point generation, 2 Psychomancers, so we can stack the Psychomancers Battle Shock test, so they force Battle Shocks in their turn, and then there's a stratagem once per battle round in Pantheon of Woe to force additional Battle Shock checks on people. Plus, the Psychomancers have like the Death Leaper aura where you take them if you're below starting strength. So it's a million Battle Shock tests to try to retain control of objectives so they don't lose to that OC2 stuff. And then a trillion, just a billion, 4 plus save, 3 plus armor save, minus the damage, just the stat check of a billion C'tan Shards. You ready for what it lost to, chat? This is so good. This is incredible. One of the greatest lists I've ever seen in my life. So Mon Ka-Tao. Okay, well, fair enough, I guess. Mon Ka-Tao is pretty good. What the fuck is this? And this was a close game, to be fair. Was it 77 to pay around 2 pairing? 77-88. So it's close. The old fish of fury, for sure. It's so much. This is one of the greatest lists of all time. So this basically does everything we just talked about, right? It's a million OC. You have transports, each individually 2 OC, right? Those are going to be able to run onto objectives if you don't have a bunch of stuff. It's hard to like individually battle shock all of them because it's a lot of individual units, each contributing 2 OC. You have 2 OC on all of these breachers, right? It's 120 OC from 60 breachers. that are being delivered by OC2 transports. So all you need is 2 Devilfish to steal an objective from a C'tan Shard, or 2 Breachers, or you just put them all on there, and then your opponent has to Battle Shock all of it to take the objective back. Unlikely. In addition, you have to hold the objectives with your C'tan Shards. Otherwise, you don't score any points, which gives the Breachers wound rerolls into you, and they're strength 6. So we are perfectly at that break point where we're like, AP1, ignore cover, strength 6, wound rerolls, and lethal hits, because we're in Montcot in the early game. So every single profile matchup is in your favor for the Breachers. Plus, you will have the ability to out-OC. So, this list is like perfectly statted. I love this list, bro. This is fucking sick. This is how I would play Tau. Just 11 hulls. Fuck it, we ball. The Conjure Fireblade is also good in here too, because they just massively improve the damage output of the Breacher teams. They give them +1 attack, plus they also bring all the gun drones, so they themselves have an additional 9 shots. You're shooting 39 attacks out of a Breacher team, potentially with full rerolls. Crazy. But yeah, this is if you want to kick the shit out of a C'tan Shard, this is a pretty good way to do this. I also wouldn't be too surprised if this wasn't okay into a lot of other non-C'tan Shard builds, because these profiles are very good into a lot of Necron defensive profiles. Now, the downside is that I think in order to beat like Awakened Dynasty Warrior bricks or the Wraith bricks, you need to kill them in multiple activations, and that always gets super weird because they can reactively reanimate in the middle of your attack sequence, which makes it very difficult to kill them. And then if you don't kill them, you've just thrown a bunch of Breachers away for nothing. So there are definitely some matchups where I don't know if this would do well, depending on the specifics of the Necron build, but oh boy, if we wanted to construct the platonic ideal of an army that could beat 5 C'tan Shards, it might be a 60 Tau Breachers.
At Chris102416 donated $2 through Super Chat. The downside is having to own 10 Tau tank chassis.
The real downside, the true downside, is having to carry around 11 Tau tanks. Have you seen how big those are? They are so big. There's a reason they used to explode for like D6 +1 or D6 mortal wounds. And also they're like randomly really hard to kill. They have like way more wounds than you would expect. I think the Hammerheads come in at 13, and then the Devilfish are 12. Or no, the Devilfish are 13 even. Fuck me. Okay. The Hammerheads are 14. You expect it's like, okay, Hammerhead's probably a gladiator equivalent, right? So it's like T10 3 plus 12 wounds. No, they're 14 because they're the size of a house. They're so big. And maneuvering all of that beef around the table. Oh boy. Oh my gosh. That's tough stuff. It's cool though. I don't know. It's cool as fuck. I'd play this instead of Adepticon if somebody wanted to give me 11 tanks. Crazy how big armies are in 10th. I mean, it's how big they can be if you leave all of the expensive stuff at home, right? Because like a lot of Tau metagame is based on Riptide battlesuits and characters and Shadow Sun and all this stuff, right? All this like overlapping big expensive units, plus you need support units, utility, Vespid Stingwings, Crew Carnivores, stealth suit teams, and so it starts to bleed the size of the army quite a bit. If you only take the cheapest stuff, yes, your army can be very big. And I think that's been the case for basically all of 40k. I remember, like, you know, I've played against multiple armies in previous editions that were like 13 tanks from Astra Militar or something. And it's just like, look at how many tanks I can fit into a list, because some of these chassis aren't very good, so they just keep getting discounted every data slate update. Those don't tend to be very strong, in fairness, because stacking one thing without any support, not ideal. So I would say 90% of the time, this is not a massively like, you know, it's not a very flexible army, right? And it's not very, it doesn't, you know, sometimes doesn't score very well and all that stuff. But it has always been, I think, in 40k possible to build armies of this size. But this is huge, right? This is absolutely enormous. Another like weird thing too with this particular matchup is Darkstrider has an Omni Scrambler aura, so he can fuck over your close deep striking Transcendent C'tan too, which is really funny. Plus, Skyray gunships get hit rerolls against flying stuff, right? Which all the C'tan Shards have. You have potentially devastating railgun shots to get through the invuln save. There's a lot of stuff going on here. This feels like it was a very targeted build, if I had to hazard a guess. Also, it was run by Dudeser McAwesome, which I appreciate. Honestly, I want to play this army one time. I want to play it one time. I want to go to one event and play this, and then never again. This is sick. Extremely cool. All right. Now the other thing, as we are moving to what stuff that feels like it is maybe pointed to, constructed specifically to kill C'tan Shards, are some other very specific builds. One of them I want to talk about from the Cherokee Open. And I talked to this player about this list in the past. Is the other way that you can beat C'tan Shards is not by doing any chicanery, right? We're not, I'm going to out-OC you. I'm going to put OC5 where you only have OC4. I'm going to make you stand on objectives to get my payoffs. You just kill them. You swing your damage as hard as you possibly can. That's the other way. That's the other way to potentially do this. Now, this makes you inconsistent at best when dealing with stuff that might be less front-loaded as a C'tan Shard. So if you're playing against a Pantheon of Woe that has 5 C'tan Shards that they're going to put in the middle of the table, and all you've done is pushed your damage output to 11 and hoped for the best, you're going to crush that person. That guy's dead. You killed him. However, if you play against an army that's like teleporting and jumping units around the table, it's a little bit more difficult because you don't have something sitting directly in front of you to beat. Now, I talked to this player over the course of Winter Ruin, I think, and he talked about this list. Oh, no, what have I done? I fucked up. Sorry, chat. I accidentally minimized all my windows. All right, here we go. We're back. And this is Sasha Edelkraut, who played this in a couple of different GTs. And he said, basically, everyone's bringing big tanks. Ultramarines bringing big tanks. Necrons bringing C'tan Shards and the Silent King and Doomsday Arcs. Everyone's bringing big, silly, armored things that are going to sit in front of me and that I have to kill. What is the highest possible damage output I can surmise? And the answer is Pact Bound Zealots. Because we've talked about it a million times, but the Hellbrute combo is just insane. An insane level of damage output. And for those who don't know, the full Hellbrute combo is Abaddon the Despoiler, who gives you hit rerolls. You play Pact Bound Zealots, so you get improved critical hits when you Dark Pact for whatever you're Dark Pacting for. So in this case, usually you play Nurgle. You go, I'm going to do sustained hits on a big anti-tank weapon. So like a Vindicator, for example, right? A Vindicator shooting massive D6 damage gunshots, AP3, high strength. They're winning everything low. I'm going to do sustained hits, so I get extra sustained hits. Now I'm going to trigger that critical hit on a 5+. And if I'm sitting next to a Hellbrute, I'm going to get lethal hits in addition to sustained. So it's the old Fire Discipline combo, 5-up critical, lethal sustain, full hit rerolls. So you fish for those 5-ups, and about 50% of your attacks end up being lethal sustain. And of course, a couple of your other attacks you're just going to wound normally with. But that essentially like doubles your damage output. Like it's plus like 70% damage. It's crazy the amount of extra damage you get out of this. So basically, we just say, okay, I get it. If you're just gonna put big idiots in front of me, I'm just gonna take the combo that does the most damage in basically all of 40k. So he actually played against 2 separate C'tan Shard builds over the course of the Cherokee Open and beat both of them. I think it was 2 at least from what I looked at from like the top 16 or so placing Necron players, but it might have been more. I didn't look through all of his games. So clearly, this build works for that specific thing. I think it's a little inconsistent elsewhere, because if your opponent isn't literally sitting in front of you and 24 inches away, then you don't do anything. Because the whole combo is within 6 inches of these like kind of slow guys, like a Hellbrute and Abaddon are not the fastest things ever. If you aren't just trading blow for blow with your opponent, they don't really do that much. But if you're sitting in front of them, they're going to kill you super dead. So in this case, he was running 2 Cultist mobs. He did have a couple biker units for scoring and a chosen unit, so Abaddon could advance. But otherwise, he was Venom Crawler, Obliterators, Double Vindicator, and a Predator Destructor as kind of like the payoffs for the Wombo combo. And he was able to beat multiple Necron lists by just killing them super dead. Just posting up in front of your opponent and just blowing them up. Which is great. He played against this like Star Shadow Arsenal build. That was it was double C'tan Shard plus Silent King, plus a couple Doomsday Arcs. It did have the Wraith unit, but it's a bunch of stuff that like the whole point is that you're gonna sit up in front of your opponent and then you're gonna ask them to deal with you. And if you post up Silent King in front of the Vindicator with the full combo, there's a non-zero chance the Silent King accidentally just dies before you get to reactive move him. Or if you don't reactive move him, he dies to the second activation. It kind of sucks. The same thing could also potentially happen to the Wraiths. It depends, entirely on what your opponent rolls, obviously, or any of the C'tan Shards. So if you're just trying to play the straight up game plan, relatively fair 40k, you're just gonna have a bad time. Now there's another trend, a small trend that did happen occasionally, but some of these factions are a little bit less played. But a very similar thing happened when they rocked up against several Knight builds. Sometimes, and in this case, actually, we can look at the same event, the same player. Steve Trimble, who's a World Championship player. He played the Spectacle at World Championship, so obviously did really well. Kind of came out of nowhere with secret technology. He played against Imperial Knights, and Brian Jones, who's obviously Art of War player, incredible Imperial Knight player, probably one of, if not the best, more Imperial Knight player in the world, because basically all he does is play Imperial Knights all the time. That's the same list. Here we go. He played Questora's Companions, 5 bigs, and just said, all right, all right, bet. You're going to stand in front of me with a bunch of guys. I'm going to charge you with Sarassus Night Lancers. And that's just what's up. I don't know, man. We're just going to have a big battle. And that was not the only case where hyper straightforward Knight builds just cracked your opponent up the face. Plus, this list in particular, you're talking about C'tan Shards or the Silent King with damage reduction. You have access to multiple instances of tank shocks, right? The Sarassus Night Lancer can duplicate a tank shock for free. Canis Rex can use a tank shock for free. So you can inflict just disastrous amounts of mortal wounds on impact. Plus, then the Lancer's output's really inconsistent, unfortunately, because the C'tan Shards have an invuln save. But if any of his hits go through the invuln save, they're massive, massive damage. Same for Canis Rex, which means they don't really care about your damage reduction that much. You're like, oh, I'm -1 damage. They're like, cool, take 8, I guess. Only 8 damage or 7. Oh no, this sucks. Plus, we have some pretty solid backline shooting from Knight Crusaders running Icarus autocannon, so we have anti-fly guns on top of them as well, so they can chip some damage in too. It's a lot, and it's basically thermal cannons on those guys as well. So basically, any of these hits that go through are going to hit for massive damage, and that's not the only time we saw that. There were a couple instances of C'tan Shards basically just trying to out-knight Knights and realizing that they are not Knights. At Clutch City, we also saw X1 Necrons go down to a very similar variety of Chaos Knights. Now, I will say, I do think that this is a little bit less consistent, maybe, than playing like the phenomenal output of Pac-Man Zealots. But because you are a lot of times just hoping for invulnerable saves to go poorly for your opponent, we saw Greg Harris play again into a very similar matchup. Multiple C'tan Shard, I believe a Star Shadow Arsenal build, but a multiple C'tan Shard Necron build that looked like a lot of Necron builds. And he played Infernal Lance, so he gets lethal or sustained hits on all his guns. You can get sustained hits on your big guns with Malefic Surge. You can get lethal hits on your Despoiler Gatling cannons. They do get hit pretty hard by the -1 damage, but there's so many of them that you're probably going to chip some damage in anyway. And then we have an Atropos, which is like obviously super keyed towards killing monsters and vehicles. A bunch of guys for high OC output, so we can steal objectives away from the C'tan Shards. Same thing with the Chaos Demons as well. So there's kind of a couple different schools of thought. when it comes to defeating these C'tan Shards. You can plan to out OC them, right? You can play aggressive, high objective control stuff that just inundates them with bodies that they can't necessarily score objectives out of. Now, this gets a little bit inconsistent when you're talking about more well-rounded builds that are maybe also taking like Wraith bricks or Necron Warrior bricks, but if they are focusing very heavily on C'tan Shards, you can steal objectives away from them. They're not very good at holding objectives, and even in Pantheon of Woe, where they can force a bunch of battle shock checks, if you have enough units, you can make it so that they have a tough time actually battle shocking enough to reclaim objectives. In addition, you can also just kill them. If you spike your damage output to the point where it is just insane, right? Like all you're doing is focusing everything on doing crazy damage at, things directly in front of you. So you're playing things like these knights with lancers. You're playing things like Paxbun Zealots with these Vindicator, combos. You could just kill them. However, obviously, that becomes a little bit more difficult if they are playing a little bit more of a well-rounded build, and not one that's focused entirely on holding primary by putting resilient units on it. The other thing, too, is when you are talking about C'tan Shards, you can also focus on the high-volume lethal hit stuff. That's also pretty good into most Necron profiles in general, I would say. The vast majority of Necron profiles do not want to see a strength 6 lethal hit AP1, AP2 attack with 1,000,000 attacks. So if you're like, Adeptus Custodes, which we talked about, if you are World Eaters, some of these Orc builds, also good at just dealing damage with high volume. And that, I think, tends to be a little bit more well-rounded because that high volume profile is also going to be good at clearing out they're like bigger units, right? Big Wraith units and big Necron Warrior units. You can actually threaten them if you just charge them with 20 Khorne Berserkers. Like, they have to play those pretty cagey and close to the vest, because otherwise there's a chance you just one-shot them. The alternative is that you play into these more MSU and scoring-oriented builds for Necrons, and in those cases, you are looking much less to out OC them, and you just need high attack volume, especially at range. So in those cases, we saw Death Watch do very well at Manchester Supermajor. To some extent, that could also have been Ines Wilson, one of the best players in the world, doing best player in the world things to beat his opponent. But I think it's in a lot of cases the ability to clear out your opponent's utility, clear out their independent characters, clear out their little 3-man squads. Whereas a lot of these armies would get activation controlled because they don't have the activation count to kill as all of those things. An army like Deathwatch is not going to have that problem, right? It just has so many units that are always shooting all the time. They have so many different weapon profiles that they can use in any situation that they're going to be able to clear those. So I think that was pretty. I think there's a lot of benefits in the metagame to playing armies like that. You're going to have a little bit tougher of a time when you're dealing with the big C'tan Shards because they're a little bit less susceptible to the kind of weapon profiles that Deathwatch are bringing. You do have like mass lethal hits so that you can make things happen, but they're not really like a Fortis kill team shooting at them is not going to be like the craziest thing in the world. You're shooting a bunch of plasma attacks, they're halving damage and then saving on invulnerable saves, and you're like, well, this is whatever. But if you're bringing a bunch of Scorpic destroyers, that Fortis kill team's going to kill the shit out of them. So it's an interesting roundabout. I do think that if we see, and I would expect to see it within, I don't know, probably a week or two, if we do see some changes to C'tan Shards so that they're a little bit less prevalent, I think that this focus on, higher volume attacks is going to be more well-rounded armies is going to be better into a lot of the Necron builds that are, emerge from there. But obviously, that remains to be seen exactly what factions end up doing pretty well. And those are my thoughts. Those are my takeaways from a review of the Necron metagame. Shadow Sword meta. I don't know about Shadow Sword. That is a lot of damage, but they can just save on an invulnerable save. I played the Storm Sword. That thing's crazy, by the way. That could be good in that matchup. If that's a vehicle It's a situation where you just want to put the C'tan Shard in front of the Astra Militarum army. This gun's gonna punish the shit out of them. This gun hits like a fucking truck. It's so much damage. Honestly, crazy damage. The amount of damage you put out when you're firing directly into things. I played against Deathwatch, and every time a Storm Shard fired its main gun, an entire kill team would die. It would just kill all 10 models. It was like 3s rerolling 1s into 2s. You just die. Cool, man. That was fun. I had a great time. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. However, the downside is that you don't get to shoot them very often because your opponent's like, please God, don't shoot me with that cannon. Also, good luck scoring points ever because you're not on the objectives. That is a situation, though, if your opponent wants to like stack up in front of you and just be there, this dude's going to punish them for that because he hits like a truck. It was a cool build. I don't know. It's a cool unit. It's not a good unit, but it is a cool unit for sure. This is the Town R meta. How much damage can we get out of a Town R into a C'tan Shard? Is it a lot? What do we play? What do we play in a Town R here? And we play the Rail Cannon Array. I guess they do just die if they fail their 4+. Oh, it's 16. No. It's only 16 damage. No, so a C'tan Shard doesn't even die. Because they have 16 wounds, and then they are -1 damage, so you're hitting for 15, and then they'll actually only take 10 because they have feel no pain. So it's actually not that great. I guess like ion cannons may be good. I don't know. Because you get 2 of these things too. Nah. How many points is he? He's like 700, right? 790. Jesus Christ. He's 200 points more than 2 C'tan Shards. I guess probably fair. He does shoot them from 120 inches away. Probably fine. Then he's more expensive. Oh, man. Why do high damage weapons feel so bad into C'tan? Because of invuln saves. The real issue with like C'tan Shards right now is that like the one thing that's like they have a defense against every axis of attack, which is why it feels so bad to attack them. Even if their actual survivability is like, it's a knight plus, right? It's not the craziest thing you've ever seen. When you math it out, the problem is that they, unlike a knight, they have a consistently strong invulnerable save. So anti-tank damage, anti-tank weapons are super inconsistent against them. I've played so many games where I have gladiator lancers, and I'm like, literally, if one of these hits go through, I'm guaranteed to kill you. And then they never fail the invuln save, or they bank the command point reroll for it, or whatever. And then so you're like, all right, so we beat them with high volume, but they have -1 damage against high volume. So you're like, okay, so I beat them with high volume 1 damage, and then they have the feel no pain, which gets very efficient against high volume 1 damage. So it's like literally every axis of attack they have a defense against, which is why they're so crazy. And I mean, as a profile, that's interesting, just a thing that's hard to kill. But the problem right now is that they're like also fast and not super inexpensive, and they hit pretty hard. I don't want to say their output's insane, but they hit pretty hard. And then a lot of times they'll also have additional abilities, like Deceiver's ability to like pop characters is big. The Void Dragon randomly like healing off vehicles is big too, so it's a lot. But double thermal Chaos Knight with reroll 1s. Just hope they fail their invulns. Like, that's the funny thing, is that like a lot of times you're like, oh, I think this kills you on average. And you're like, yeah, it's a 4+, right? It's like to some extent, you can't really math how much they're taking unless you're giving them a gratuitous number of saves to make, because their output is their saving throws are so inconsistent. They had those things for years now. Why are they considered super OP? They didn't have those for years. No. They had those on a 12 wound body. That was slow, right? They were all movement 6 and they were all 12 wounds. And they had all of those other things, right? They were even tankier against anti-tank because they had half damage. Now they increased their damage, their wound pool by 33%, right? By 1/3, and almost doubled their speed. That's the issue. Without increasing their cost very much. They increased their cost by like 15 points. That's the reason it's an issue now. They were not an issue before because they were expensive and slow and didn't have as many wounds. Now they have massive increase in their wounds pool, and also are much faster. And they added Deep Strike. Yeah, that's true. In fairness, like, it was kind of weird they didn't have Deep Strike, like, honestly. I don't know. I guess it was like a balancing factor for Hypercup Legion, but they made them unable to Cosmic Precision, which I think hit them hard enough. The Deep Strike is very good, though. Can a Stompa kill C'tan? Oh, maybe. What's a Stompa doing? I don't. The problem with the Stompa is that I don't know if the Stompa's doing that much against the Doomsday Arcs. I think the Doomsday Arcs of the Silent King have something to say about that guy. I think he might die. This profile's not the best thing ever. Can we get a Stompa lethal hits? This profile's okay. I think the answer is probably not. Because you can give them +1/2 hit, and you can give them sustain 1, right? There's a couple different ways. So if you're basically hitting on 3s, so you're firing like 10 3+ hits for D6 damage. So you're like charitably like 5 hits, 3 wounds. They let like 1.5 through onto the Feel No Pain, so you're hitting for like 4 damage with the cannon. And the rockets are basically something similar for like maybe another 3 damage. And you have a million attacks that might do 1, and then the Gatler might do like 1 or 2. So you'll like half kill him probably, unless you have like bigger guns for bigger gets. That might do it. So like Dread Mob Stompa might do it. That would get you to sustain or lethals, yeah. So, maybe if you're dumping command points through it, you might be able to. But I think he dies immediately to like single activation from, or like if he dies to the counterattack, right? From like a couple Doomsday Arcs and the Silent King are just like, sorry, buddy. Silent King, not unreasonable to hit him for, I guess, 10 damage if he's got his -1 active. And then Doomsday, I guess a Doomsday Arc only hits for 3 if his -1's active. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay. I don't know if it's that good, but maybe. I don't think you're trading up, but it is cool. Gargantuan Squiggoth on the charge can kill one with sustained hits. Gargantuan Squiggoth. No, with the tusks. Can you Unbridled Carnage him? 1 orc unit. What? Wait, that's sick. I didn't know that, actually. So he's like, he just hands you 5 saves at 12 damage each. That's very good. Downside is they die immediately. You have to get there. That's the problem. But once they get there, oh boy, do they hit. Oh man. If we still had, God, this with the glory days, chat, when you could what was this stratagem? The -1 wound stratagem, which is now infantry locked, but when you could do it on anything, any non-vehicle, fuck me, this unit was disgusting. You would just like prepay the point every time for -1 wound on your T13 body with 30 wounds. Your opponent would like dump their whole army into it, do 20 damage. You're like, I lived, bitch. Then you walk and you just kill them. Glorious. The glory days, chat. I miss it. I'd play that list. That'd be fun as fuck. Gargantuan. I mean, like I said, right? You just stack damage until you kill them. If your opponent's gonna put 5 C'tan Shards in front of you, you're like, all right, bet I'm gonna take the dumbest damage output in the game. If all you're doing is stat checking me, I can beat you with a counter stat check. Feels good. I don't know. The Gargantuan Squad does not have the Walker keyword. No, it's a monster. Double Ares gunship. And 60s Sisters of Silence. Ares gunships. I think we might be in the weeds here, chat. With the 3-shot D6 +6 damage weapon. The old 3 shots. Pew pew. They have 8 las cannon shots, I guess. That's pretty good. 8 las cannons and D6 plus 6. I mean, this defensive profile is rough. You're like a knight with extra steps, but you have aircraft keyword. So you just get shot immediately. As a Harry Dan aficionado, I understand how quickly this goes away. Once your opponent can see you with everything. I guess you could hover them, but I think that they are too big. Oh, no, they don't even have hover. Just kidding. Just kidding. They're just guys. They would just be in the air. Oh, no, they do have hover. Just kidding. So you could hover them. I think they might be too large, though. I don't know if they hide. Want to see massed infantry horde list against C'tan? I mean, another good example, if we want to talk about why orcs are so good in that matchup, is the Winter Ruin finals that we live streamed. I can grab the game for you even. It was Green Tide into C'tan, and Gaskell never activated profitably. Oh, it was semifinals. Excuse me. It was semifinals. Gaskell never profitably activated, and Green Tide was able to lock him to a basically just consistently out OC him to the point that they won. Let me see if I can get the score sheet in here. Like towards the end of the game, it was it ended up being pretty well in hand for orcs, just because they were able to steal objectives so consistently, even though they never. I think they killed one C'tan Shard. I think they killed Deceiver, and then they didn't kill anything else basically besides the utility. But because they were just so all over the board, and even without Gaskell doing any damage whatsoever before he died, he was still able to win. And I mean, I think it was a good example. And if we look at the beginning of that game, it was orcs everywhere. There were so many orcs. So you want to watch that matchup play out, you can watch that game. It's pretty wild. Anyway, chat. Fast Horde is a massive weakness of big model armies like Adventuring Party. I don't know about Adventuring Party, chat. I think I will stand on the hill that I think Adventuring Party actually mogs big hordes. It's not like an auto win, but I have played that matchup many a time, and let me tell you, the fact that greater demons have greater mobility than C'tan Shards and attack more times means that they typically will kick the shit out of big hordes of stuff. It's usually a pretty close score, but it definitely does not feel like it is like massively weighted in favor of big hordes, in my opinion. But that's just me. Also, like just like everything has a flamer. It's something that you don't really get in Necrons. Is like the guns from the C'tan Shards are okay, but it usually is like 6 shots, right? Like that they have to roll to hit, and then they like get 3 wounds through or whatever. But like basically every greater demon is between like 8 and 15 attacks. Like you have Bellicor, 15 shots, reroll ones, or 12 shots on overcharge. The Lord of Change is like sustained D3, 15 attacks. All of the great unclean ones are like 2d6 or d6 plus 3 auto hit flamer shots, and you're minus some toughness, so like winning on 2s. It's actually like you just lose tons of models ambiently over the course of that game, and then you get charged and they swing 14 times with the rerolls and they kill you. I definitely think that Adventuring Party bucks the trend a little bit of the weakness of big model armies to hordes. I think they're actually very good against hordes. Also, the combination of the 15 attack Great Unclean one plus +1 damage from Rodriguez means that like the Nurgle stuff is just lethal, even if you have like Feel No Pains and stuff backing you up. They just have it's so many attacks. It's so many good attacks. It's a good stuff, Chance. I might go back to Adventuring Party. I haven't really played that much in the last like couple weeks. I just played some random bullshit, and I might go back to Adventuring Party. I kind of miss it. How good is an anti-character bird bloodthirster? Like Adrax, or Argath? It's a salamander pilled. Argath, the King of Blades. I think he's very inconsistent. It depends entirely on how many 4+s your the C'tan rolls. I would say probably mid. He's probably not that good. What you want is like, you want Lords of Change. You want like Bird Flu. Bird Flu, I think, just absolutely mogs C'tan Shards. Because as soon as you cut their toughness by 2, either the Everstave Lord of Change just wins them on 3s, like natively, right? With a billion attacks. And then as soon as you cut their toughness by 2, regular Lords of Change or Kairos also win them on 3s. And so you're just like pick one guy, your Great Unclean ones dump his toughness, and then you just like Lords of Change just drill him into the ground. Super duper hard. The other thing too is that unless they roll Devastatings on the like anti-character attacks or the Nightbringer's attacks, you also have invuln saves like back at them. So they're like big punchy attacks. Like the Void Dragon's like kind of just a piece of shit in that matchup because he's just like poking at a guy. He's winning on 3s or 4s or 5s sometimes. And then you're just like a 4+ save and you just reroll the failed save. And he's like, I did maybe 5 damage. And then he just gets the crap kicked out of him. But yeah, there's a bunch of interesting stuff. All right, Chance. That's all I had to say about the topic. I don't think we have much else to talk about today, so I might leave you to it. I don't think we had any news articles or anything since yesterday, which we already talked about. So I imagine within the next week or so, we'll probably see some big shifts. I have a sneaking suspicion that before the Adepticon GT, which is obviously very highly publicized, and GW likes to make it look good, we will likely see a data site. We're due one because the last one was in January. Yeah, we got new detachments coming out pretty soon anyway too. So I imagine we're going to see a balance update within pretty soon. Just the timing seems to be correct. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. AdMech feel pretty good against C'tan. Comes down to rerolls, but Ballistarian and Scorpius things do pretty well. Yeah, I guess like having just like, you know, criticals and just a bunch of really consistent last cannon shooting, probably pretty good. All right, chat. Well, thanks for hanging out with me today. I don't believe I'm going to be live on Twitch until likely Thursday. I have some meetings and stuff later today, unless. All right, I might stream later this evening or this afternoon, but I'm not 100% sure. That's up to whether my opponent wants to play. But we might stream some of my game over on the Twitchies because we just did a bunch of work on the TTS mod for it, so it looks a little bit nicer. But yeah, other than that, I'll probably be back on Thursday. I'll be back tomorrow, obviously, with Warhamster Wednesday, and then I'll probably be back on Thursday over on Twitch playing some games. So yeah, thanks everyone for chilling with me. Hope that we were helpful in this discussion. And yeah, keep it classy, folks. Cheers, everybody. They like to adjust before Adepticon. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I mean, they really, I think, really want to avoid the Harlequin thing from 9th edition, where the Adepticon, the Adepticon major was just like a fucking disaster because of Harlequins. They're so strong. I like to maybe avoid that next time. All right. Cheers, everybody. Keep it classy, folks, and I'll see you later.